but the Freaker Freaks feel a bit more in control, playing a bit more of their own style. We'll see if that continues here in the draft. PVB over on the left, they'll be our blue team. They ban Tom Kench. And the Freaker Freaks, they will respect Xeros's Jace, taking that one away as well.
I think finding a way to attack the bot lane over Freaker Freaks is probably a smart way to go. When Kramer is on comfort, you think of the Varus Tom Kench duo, for example, and can control the lane, everything kind of slides into place for a Freaker. If the bot lane is ever attacked, then Spirit can't be as free to have agency around the map. So we'll wait and see how the approach is, and so far they're banning away the man who was almost the MVP of the regular season of spring season in Tucson, already taking an Alistair and a Tom Kench ban.
It's pretty interesting to see which positions these teams are attacking. Support on one side, top lane on the other, as Urgot will join the ban list as well. Perhaps Aatrox will also make his way there, but seen that one slip through a few more times.
Does feel like maybe the Jace will be a one and done for Xeros. That was the first Jace we've had on the world stage. Probably not going to be any more at this main stage, as it's just able to apply so much pressure on the pick. The Urgot is the other champion he's impressed on. We'll see if there's any digression from the role bans. There will be the Aatrox banned away by Fengfu Buffalo.
Yeah, on the blue side, so it does kind of give a Freaker Freaks a bit of room, perhaps, if they were thinking they had to ban it themselves. But still a lot of good power picks to take away here, and they'll pick Rakan, actually, for taking a support out of the pool once more. So Kai'Sa, Akali, these kind of things are up. We'll see what Fengfu Buffalo do want to take as their first pick.
Akali's certainly there, and is that flex pick, as we've seen very, very often this tournament. The Camille was the one that was banned away by the Flash Wolves against Afrika, and Keen and Spirit, of course, both able to pick it away. Such a high contested pick in the LPL, but with the game pace increasing largely, of course, today, not so much, but we've seen a lot of quicker games. Camille jungle more likely to find a lot of advantages in bloody games, and we're coming off one of the bloodiest games in the tournament in terms of kills in our previous game.
Yep, have to think that Xeros, if it's his champion, also pretty comfortable playing that carry. Freaker Freaks, though, to respond with Xayah and Nocturne, so things feeling pretty good for them. Of course, with their Rakan off the table, banned by themselves, they can't take it here, but they'll happily take Nocturne for Spirit again, and Xayah's just a generally good all-round marksman.
Imagine Thresh would love to be duoing with that Xayah, but hasn't been selected just yet, and it seems like Fengfu Buffalo are going to attack the duo lane. They're picking for lane power, not for scaling. With this Lucian pickup so far, the Galio to pair with it. It's Camille Galio, Hextech Ultimatum, and that Hero's Entrance. Reliable engage for sure, but we've already had the issues with Galio into Nocturne, best encapsulated by TL being unable to get much value out of that Hero's Entrance. That is, of course, the risk you take, but KT did win against the Nocturne with their Galio game earlier in the tournament.
Yep, certainly some strong picks, as Kuro will actually take Swain in this phase as the Freaker Freaks move into phase 2 of Vance. He has been very consistent throughout the tournament, actually, and his Swain looked real good the last time he played it.
But when you look at the draft that Afrika put together so far, you see very good wave clear out of the Xayah, you see a very safe blind pick, probably mid laner here. Haven't seen Keen on the top lane Swain, but it's a pretty common pickup for Kuro. Does feel like we're setting up for a last pick top lane carry, and the 4-1 style that, of course, the analyst desk was talking about very extensively on the World's Countdown earlier in the day. Freaker Freaks love to play around Keen, looking for advantages. Keen's performance been up and down this tournament, definitely not vindicating the 4th place on the top 20 players at Worlds, but plenty of time to do so. Said on that show, let's decide it after, of course, that Next explodes and World Finals is awarded. Some teams are already eliminated, but speaking of eliminations, double ban towards Meliodas in the second round.
Yeah, losing both Olaf and Kindred as PVB banned Aurelia away from one of the solo laners. I've seen it a lot top. It was the Koreans that started pulling it out initially, so we'll see if there's another top lane ban aimed there to maybe try and bolster either whatever Xeros has blind picked or that Camille if that's what he wants.
And if it ends up being top lane Camille, Keen was the first in the LCK to run the Malphite into the Camille matchup. If you go Trinity Force, Sunfire, Malphite, you're actually able to win the matchup over time. Might be a surprise to some people, but it's been seen in the LPL and the LCK. Can also take different approaches, but if you keep that top lane pick for last, then you do get that full information on where Camille's going. That's what they'll do, and we already talked about Xayah Thresh. Will be a very staple duo for Worlds 2018 so far.
Yep, love to see it there. So Tucson will take Thresh into battle. That means what is going to round out this draft here for Fengfu Buffalo? To have 2 picks to go. They need either a top laner or a jungler and a support to finish things off, unless some real crazy stuff is happening.
Still a chance of crazy. Still the chance of something huge coming.
Given what we've seen today, I would agree.
And Fengfu Buffalo have been one of the engineers of that. Gragas picked up here, most likely to be the jungle Gragas, but no certainty there either. Could be support Gragas as well. A lot of flexibility. And we get that final information. It will be support Gragas and the jungle Xin Zhao try to get the game going. Already seen this matchup once today, so we'll see if he can get those advantages. Final pick here is on the side of Afrika. Malphite we already discussed could just be a pure tank here to make this a very strong team fight draft and not so much about the split push. Baron control here would be a big advantage of taking the Cho'Gath. Waiting for the last second though for the Afrika Freaks.
Ooh,
hey!
it's Jax McKean.
We're going skill matchup, pastry time.
I love to see it here. I mean, again, when I first saw Keen play here at Worlds, he played Sion, and I'm like, this is not the player that I signed up to watch. So this, now Jax in the final stages, perhaps of the group for Afrika Freaks, is what I want to see.
And now you don't need to listen to me whining about the fact that they didn't opt into what seemed to be a very obvious 4-1 draft, with the one being the top laner split pushing. Fun skill matchup here against two common foes in top challenger Korean League of Legends. I'm going to love seeing the Camille versus the Jax. Should be a treat.
And I think, again, for PVB, overall, they drafted a very aggressive comp here. And this is, I think, what we expect in a group that has been pretty slow, all things considered. This has been the team to buck that trend. And generally, we've seen them play very aggressive topside. Makes sense with things like Galio, Camille, and a jungle as aggressive as Xin Zhao. But even the bot lane, I think Lucian and Gragas have traction if they want to try and get aggressive in a 2v2 or bigger. So certainly I'm expecting a lot of fighting, but Afrika Freaks, I expect to be pretty good at parrying a lot of that aggression and kind of playing out that controlled style with, again, Kane kind of the capstone of this strategy.
And it's so interesting to see how the teams play out the draft, because both have incentive to go topside to try to tilt the matchup one way or the other. But traditionally, Afrika Freaks have put very little attention to Keen's lane and just trusted on him to manufacture his own leads. And of course, Nocturne doesn't really want to be babysitting a lane at the best of times. So we'll see what happens here, because it can definitely go one way or the other. In the early levels, Camille, if she goes into Comet, has the better keystone for trades. But then you get more and more points into the Jax. You turn around those trades, and if you ever take the wrong hook shot, your days could be done.
Well, we'll have to see here, but certainly a fun one here as the tournament hangs in the balance pretty precariously for both these teams, but for Fengvu Buffalo especially. And as a quick check of the keystones, you will get at least some of your wish. Deros is taking Comet to start this matchup. So again, winning early seems to be on the minds of this team.
Afrika Freaks team comp here, very strong wave clear when they are grouped as 4, but the engage options for PVB do not end in the Camille. They have a Gragas support who can start things up. The Xin Zhao and the Galio can do plenty of brawling. Very interesting to see how the early game goes, as these are the sort of drafts where there's to some degree some parity in the lineups, and usually when it's similar style versus similar style, the game gets decided by the gold lead around 10 to 15 minutes, because it's very hard to turn the game.
Yep, have to see if, ooh, something is going to get started. Pallet gets that quick body slam onto Tucson, proxy Aftershock. Of note, Thresh actually going Spellbook this time around, so we'll not have kind of a better combat keystone for the 2v2, but I think against Lucian Gragas, they're kind of conceding a lot of that early pressure anyway.
I'm not expecting much jungle attention early, so just wants to sustain through the lane. Usually when we see the Spellbook on some of the non-standard supports, usually when we see, say, an Aftershock on the Thresh, when they move to the unsealed Spellbook, it's take a heal, and so the AD carry can take Teleport to free up the AD carry, just go for those more frequent shops. But because they're against the Lucian, who's picked for lane rather than, say, a Kai'Sa, I think this was Kai'Sa Gragas, it would be Teleport for sure from Xayah, but they're taking extra combat summoners because they're expecting to see attention first from the Lucian in trading, and potentially the Xin Zhao, who's unlocked to gank from level 2 onwards.
Well, right now, Meliodas starts red and is running to the left side of his jungle, so seems to be looking top lane, at least for now. Spirit, of course, red of his own, and now going over to his blue side of the jungle, but they are cross-map to start things off as Tucson trying to zone things off, as Kramer does get that wave pushing early.
Mid lane going to be pretty much a farm fest. Not going to see the camera on this lane too much, you would imagine. Jungler intervention, only thing that can stop that is, oh, turret shot there, actually absorbed by Null. He has gone for the greedy start, the Dark Seal into the refillable, so we'll already have to pop one of those potions. Spirit guarantees himself a scuttle. His path so far was red buff into Scuttle Crab on the bot side. He wants to disengage on the enemy jungler. He's not interested in seeing Xin Zhao on his screen. So you want to mask a pathing as Hook does land.
Really nice. Ignite actually going to follow as well. Big Horror is still on level 1 as Kramer wants to go for the all-in, but isn't quite going to grab it. Only one summoner picked up by Afrika Freaks there.
Feels like a really good summoner trade. Unfortunately, if you're Gragas at level 1, you have a body slam and you just have to watch on his in horror as Big Koro takes the bad side of a trade. It's Doran's shield, won't be forced out of lane. A nice early moment for the dual lane of Afrika, who's really been on the defensive side for the majority of this tournament.
Once Meliodas is taking initiative here now on the top side of the map. He will steal these Raptors away from Spirit after doing that same initial route. And with Zeros kind of pushing in that top side, looks like he's just content to farm as much of a Spirit jungle as he can.
And it actually tells you a lot more, the fact that Raptors are up. We'll see if Spirit actually face checks the Xin Zhao. He's not going to. We might actually see the junglers meet here. I think both have a pretty good idea of where the enemy jungler is.
No smite here for Spirit, but they are going to meet. Meliodas does get the smite onto the big Krog, and he'll book it. Or at least for now.
Jack's under turret, so won't be able to respond. Zeros keeping him away. So this does, of course, separate any chance of a pincer here by Keen.
Yeah, Zeros just straight up hit the turret with that big minion wave there, so we'll get a bit of harass down as Tucson also a little low here from another trade in the 2v2. It looks like, again, just trying to play zone control here, hanging out in the brush. I'm hoping someone face checks.
Tucson's able to push up because they know they're isolated. There ain't no junglers on this side of the map for certain. They had eyes on each other, so able to walk up and make those sort of plays and know that it's purely a 2v2, that maybe Kramer and Tucson liking their chances in. Top side CS lead, already mentioned, and we'll talk about the point a bit more. Because you have access to Comet, which helps with the W trades that the Camille's able to do, you just inch forward a health lead. Conqueror will come more into his own. Jax will come in more into his own as he gets to put points into his W. But in the early game, because of that Comet, it does mean it's easier trading for Zeros.
I like this though from Spirit, goes back, gets a red smite, refills that potion, and then Controller down the brush to invade the Raptors himself. Nor does see this. He'll see if he can stop some of it, but Spirit again, in a kind of a tricky, early aggressive situation, is picking the right spot to invade here.
She uses this Dustbringer backwards, I assume, to just mask the path there, not give any information. If the Xin Zhao was walking in, regardless, gonna back away. Ruins the camp, feel good moment for Spirit, but probably not gonna get any access to the scuttle, even though Kuro has the push in mid.
Yeah, you can see Meliodas already on it, and Spirit did use his smoke to get the Raptor, so that will be over to the Xin Zhao, and now Spirit is gonna pick a fight here. Kuro had the way pushing up. Slow's gonna miss. The fear actually moves him away from it as the hook does land again in onto the Gragas. Now gonna get flayed back in. Damage is decent, but Big Cora is gonna try and make it happen. Tucson, he's forced to flash away, but Paladin is low. That's a force flash now for the Gragas as Big Cora gonna be forced to run back toward the turret. What a sick play from Tucson at max range to force the next flash.
So important the mana ran out from Kramer, otherwise there could have been some kills there. The Ignite threat is why Tucson flashed defensively, because he knew that Pallet will be able to ignite him, and Thresh's base stats, if you're not going defense primary, are going to be a lot lower. Ends up being even overall, but Kramer holding his flash, the big advantage for the side of Afrika.
And jungle is actually going to make their way down here. Xin Zhao's going to walk all the way down, but will be spotted by this ward. Will prompt Afrika Freaks to move away from the lane, and Spirit is back behind the turret to counter gank as well.
And Xin Zhao just relegated to pushing duty now, understands that Big Cora and Pallet want out of this lane. Gonna do it on a cannon wave as well. Otis just pushing up, being annoying on the top side. No freeze gonna be allowed because Xin Zhao forcing the lane to push in.
Yep, just escorts it in, so nice play there to cover for the bot lane after a lot of extensive trading there, but you can see Big Cora has gone back, has that Vamp set now picked up, and gets some consumables for himself as well. We'll see what Kramer picks up once they finish reshoving the wave. Is back towards the top side. Keen is level 6 already, but that early team after Zeros is still keeping him a little bit of a CS lead. Stun is going to connect on the end of the hook shot, but he buffered it through to get out of there.
So matchup the Keen has a lot of professional experience on. Seen him get solo kills in this exact matchup. That was Afrika versus BBQ. BBQ relegated, so perhaps not the best data point, but Keen is very, very good in skill matchups. He loves playing those champions like the Quinn. I'm waiting for that Worlds debut of the Quinn. I'm greedy. But Cloud9 in the bot lane, and potentially Keen could bring out that pick at this Worlds 2018. Kuro, first with the Blasting Wand on his way towards the Rod of Ages, different shot timing coming through from Null. Still, we're not seeing this game go one way or the other. We already kind of laid out our chips and said we expect this game to snowball pretty hard in one direction or the other because of the similarities in the comps. Holding our judgment for now, but largely even. Just about 100, 200 gold lead for Afrika Freaks.
Yeah, still first blood, and that Infernal Drake on the table for these teams to try and take, and of course Herald spawning in a few minutes as well. Looks like Meliodas will move back towards the top side of the map though, because Scuttle Crab is back on the left side once again.
Small moment for an item choice here. You'll see a Fairy Charm in the inventory for the Xayah. People will be wondering, is this building into anything? The answer is no. A lot of 80 carries in Korea towards the end of the season, just picking up a Fairy Charm for mana regen when they can, because it has such a high gold resale value. I think you only lose 60 gold when you sell it, so you just pick it up just to get a bit more. But trading in lane, and Xayah herself does run out of mana very frequently.
You can see again some trades there in the mid lane, but both of them running relatively low on mana and just kind of farming things out as we mentioned. Spirit is leashing this blue buff though for Kuro, so he can stay if he wants to, and of course has TP to get back to lane. Null does not, although can look to use the ulti for maybe that roam and to try and pick up the first blood. But again, a Freak of Freaks, I think, have to be pretty happy with the control pace of this game. Expect him to be pretty good in these sorts of situations. Spirit has gotten a 6 safely, and no one has died just yet.
Teleport ignite. So teleport, the first usage of the unsealed spellbook here for Tucson. Not sure if that's to get into lane or to respond to a Galio, because both Kuro and Tucson have teleport available. Potentially, even if Galio comes in first, as an outnumber potential in the top lane. Try to back up King.
Yeah, I'm ready for some sort of roam with the TP, but we'll have to see as Zaya with the BF sword is now pushing, continuing to push heavily in this lane, I should say. Kramer and Tucson staying isolated and seem to have a pretty good handle on the 2v2, but Spirit going to try and pick up a first blood here in top lane.
They see a hook shot, they're going straight in. In fact, maybe they'll just YOLO this one.
Stun lands, I think they're just waiting. They are going to get it. Spirit's going to follow. Beautifully set up, he flashes in. Make sure the Fear Tether is there, and that's first blood over to your Jax.
Very nice execution there. Always going to land on that Nocturne ultimate. No juking that one. Stayed in range. Flashing aggressively. Guaranteed they're going to get the tether as well. No, interrupt this.
No, taunt is missed, barely. Spirit does make it safely back to base.
Didn't quite see how close it was. I think if he threw in the Winds of War, it might have interrupted. Went for the face check, doesn't pick up the kill. Just a 1 for 0 for the Africa Freaks.
And Spirit again gets to level 6 safely. First ultimate gives his top laner a kill. Everything kind of going how Africa Freaks drew it up. Now looking 700 gold ahead, as we'll check this kill out again.
I wondered if Keen was going to hold on to things, but he actually just power engages. They accept the fact the hookshot will come in. The early flash is to guarantee there's no way to juke for the tether. If you went straight up, which would kind of be a madness move, you just find the Jax and you died to him anyway. Watching the replay here, Winds of War would definitely have interrupted. It was cast early. They don't pick it up, but they do try to pick up an Infernal Drake.
Yep, play in top lane does make PVB move down towards this bottom half of the map, so they will take the first Drake of the game and pick up the Infernal for themselves. Matt will be coming up next, but never a bad thing to get a Drake this early on in the game.
I mean, Pastry Time, you're stoked to pick up an Infernal with 5 damage dealers. Even the Gragas is going to have a bit of ability power from his support item, so a very, very high value Infernal later in the game. Game not blown open, but just the fact that it was Jax picking up the kill is a great sign for Keen in this matchup. He's got the Phage, he started with the Ninja Tabi, so while there's no item lead just yet, it's definitely on the horizon. It's a nice hook.
Yeah, really nice. Into the box there, the play is good, and that's an easy kill for Kramer. Featherstorm doesn't even pull the feathers back, just makes Big Coral walk out of there because Pallet was already dead.
Unfortunately, there was no ability for Pallet to actually proc the Aftershock, so he went down like paper to Kramer in that one. Very nicely done by Tucson. He loves himself some hook supports, as in the top lane. Every time you see a leap in, which will be very frequently, you're always going to be trading aggressively where you can. You always wonder if we're going to see a Worlds 2018 highlight moment.
Perhaps, I mean, given how well the lane was going for Zeros early, using that Comet, the fact that it's already back to even just foregoing the fact that Keen was able to get that first blood kill, it just feels like already he's kind of stabilized the matchup and is starting to tip the scales, poking that lamp underneath them and forcing Zeros, who is the star player for PVB, into a situation where he doesn't want to be, because he's usually the one playing the big carry and winning the side lane for his team. But for a Freak of Freaks, as they set things up, that will be Keen in this game.
It's just so scary, Pastry Time, to have just a 2v2 outplay in bot lane and the enemy top laner go ahead when you're the Galio, because you want to be ahead of the play. Remember, he gets locked out by the Nocturne ultimate if it's used first. So if you're going to be proactive with losing lanes, that sounds really, really tricky to pull off, and really is the potential for Galio to be marooned in the mid lane and for the game to be decided in the side lane.
Spirit is at it again, by the way. Lane ganking through the top side of the map as Keen does try and get the wave pushed in. Null is on the right side of the map to respond to this play, though.
Looking for any sort of hook shot here from Zeros. Even under turret, they can pull off a turret dive. But Zeros smartly not going to be using that. And Spirit for now, he's got no camps up, so there's no opportunity cost to chilling around. And unfortunately, Xin Zhao not been able to make anything work around the map, barring being about 3 camps ahead.
Yeah, it can be a little tough to chase a Nocturne when he can so easily engage across the screen. But again, King will just kind of take the wave. He'll go back and spend some money, and we'll see just how close he is to that Trinity Force, which is the general first item for this Jax. Again, PVB kind of need a spot to make a play. Otherwise, the Freak of Freaks will be happy to play the style that they have shown a lot of success with both domestically and as early as today.
Unfortunately, the moment that Jax starts being able to chase Camille out of the lane, was not an inevitability, but this lane does typically become Jax favored as it goes on, especially with this gold lead. That's where PVB can try engages. We mentioned they have the support Gragas, but Afrika are going to be so defensive in their 4. Maybe you can get a Swain ultimate or something like that, but any more than that will be so tricky. And if Jax is split pushing, he's going to thwomp away on the turrets. But just finding ways to get some tempo back, just get some presence on the map back by finding something like the Rift Herald will be great for PVB, and they're actually moving their bot lane through to try to guarantee this play.
Yep, should be able to grab it, so we'll see where they go next. Looks like 4-man mid as Pallet pops a sweeper and just make sure everything is safe to cover. In fact, he's going to get aggressive, make sure his jungler can safely summon the Herald. Even Xerath is roaming down here.
It's a 5-man mid with the Rift Herald to try to force some movement. They will lose mid lane turret with all this threat. No Zeros is there, but they should put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, does someone stick around? Kuro actually pops the ulti. That's going to be Zeros charging in. He's trying to lock up Spirit, but Kuro, he's in stasis. His Tu's roaming up as well. He's going to get hooked up as Keen's also joined the fight. And I don't think they're quite tanky enough to Galliard. Not bad, grabs a 2-man knock, but the Featherstorm is good. Null does pick up Kuro in the front side of the play, as Zeros is desperately trying to kill Spirit, but Spirit, he'll live for a little while longer. Null grabs a double kill on the other side, as that's finally a kill for Kramer, who does take down the Camille. A mess it is indeed. And if Freaka Freaks, they actually trade down.
They do trade down. Only 2 kills, but crucially both to the Xayah. Keen could not get there and be super influential in the play. He's going to keep walking down. He knows the turret is already pretty low. Credit to PVB. They saw this game moving out of their grasp. The sands of time were just falling between their fingers. So they tried to make a proactive move, and largely they stick the landing.
Yep, they get the first turret gold. They actually stabilize the gold lead. In fact, Big Core, if he can finish his turret, will get a double TP from Fongbu Buffalo. Is going to be Kramer's going to get dove without his ulti. Zeros going to charge in. You could have flashed that. Shut down by Zeros.
I'm loving this from PVB. So high tempo, using every trick in the book to find advantage. It's going to be a 2-turret lead. The crucial problem, though, is if Afrika can ever regain vision, the Jax in the bot lane is going to get solo gold and solo farm.
It's a short-lived lead there, as Keen does answer the turret. Still up a few hundred gold, but not the 1,000 they just had seconds ago.
Still, I'm not focused on what Afrika are doing, which is the very standard choice of, oh, that's a lot of teleports. I'm going to focus on this turret. I'm going to take my cap off to the innovation and just the smart little moments PVB are showing. So many teams in the LCK will get strangled out in a game like this, where the Jax gets going and everyone feels that creeping doubt, right, of, man, how are we going to deal with this in the late game? The way you deal with it is proactive moves, as we're able to show here. Afrika are understandably caught off guards. When 5 members of PVB come down, they end the laning phase themselves to find advantages, and they do trade 3 for 2 in a fight that reminds me of our previous game.
Certainly does. But Kuro finally the first to go down, as some blinking low health bars.
Face
Don't
check.
quite slink away. That's bad news for Pallet. Goodbye, sir.
Issue with that play is that because they were playing top side and mid lane, they lost vision control around the Drake. So the second Drake of the game will go the way of the Afrika Freaks to face check. A little bit too bold on the side of Pallet, has now gone down a couple of times. They take the Drake here, and in all of the carnage, slight gold lead to PVB. The Infernal Drake means the combat stats are in a pretty good spot as well. The only looming issue is that Zeros is now 20 CS behind. He has some kills, but the Trinity Force already done from King.
Yeah, tough to think if he can really find too much traction without help in this 1v1 matchup, so we'll likely have to cede the pressure to Keen.
In the early laning phase, tactical sweep, Comet, you win a trade. You can maybe even look for a hook shot in a short lane, especially if you know where the enemy jungler is. You take the wrong hook shot at this point in the game, the cooldowns are lower, 20% CDR, and just the scaling from the Jax, he turns around and kills you. So you have to be a lot more defensive now as the Camille. The most you can hope is to push in a wave and then look for a TP play, TP down for a while, so super defensive play from Zeros.
Yeah, I think, again, PVB can at least look to use this Galio and try and make something else proactive happen. Null's actually had a pretty good lane here, keeping a decent but small CS lead up against Kuro, and is getting his item timing on pretty quickly. So, again, another good heroic entrance can turn things around very swiftly.
And in lieu of that, Kuro says, I can't afford to buy boots. I need to mainline my Zonias, because he used the stasis in the previous fight from the stopwatch. Keen going to get a bit of backup here. I believe the control ward saw Tucson, and we all know that he needs no time to thwack away on this outer turret and get some more global gold to the side of Afrika.
Response is correct, though, from PVB. Just straight down to the bot. Outer, you really can't do much else. Although Kramer getting damage on the mid turret could be a bit awkward. Nor, though, here to make sure the wave clear and the minions stay away from the structure.
Good to see PVB keeping up, though. Again, even though they come from a region that is known for the Fiesta, they are the controlled team over in the VCS, and they, I'm sure, are very, very used to enemy teams playing a very high-paced game, and for them to just try to mainline the safest and most responsible objective wherever possible. So they'll back away here. No gold lead to speak about either way. And even though I've liked a lot of what Afrika has done, I thought the next levels by PVB around the Rift Herald in particular have made this a super competitive game in the first 18 minutes.
And we heard again from the analyst desk at the top of the day, when you think about 4-1, which is a strategy that Afrika have drafted here and do like to play, really the way to beat it is crack one of the sides and crack it hard. I don't know if Keen is the man that you can reliably pick off, so I think PVB have to try and either pick a 4v4 or a 5v4 team fight and kind of make it work from there, because we've seen the theme of the second half of groups has been play your own game. For PVB, yes, well, they may be the slower team in their region. They're certainly good at fighting. Is Kramer going to get knocked back in? Pallet set it up beautifully. Here's Galio trapped into the cage. See you later.
Now that's not one you get out of. Pastry time, very nicely done. And they're looking for their picks where they can. They're grouping with Zeros where they can and punishing the Jacks for looking for the split push play. Pick a bit of an item here, does Keen, but he's going to have to try to regroup. And you make that play post 20 minutes, you lose the Baron. Definitely a warning shot and then some from the PVB duo.
Yeah, again, keeping their gold lead just afloat here, as Big Koro will get this wave pushed in. He'll be met by Keen in just a short moment, and he'll instantly leave the lane, knowing that the Jacks could be coming. And again, it's some good controlled aggression from the Fengvu Buffalo right now. Afrika Freak still have the age-old League of Legends problem of having the mid-outer turret still up for their opponents, which makes playing macro extraordinarily difficult.
And then you talk about the PVB side. Every time Camille groups, their engage is ultra reliable. And for that reason, there are very few teams in the world I would respect to be able to play the 4-1 as cleanly as the Afrika Freaks will need to, because your timings against just a general engage comp are not massive, and when it's a guaranteed engage comp with the Camille, they're even more slim, but Afrika have shown they can play through Keen on things as risky as the Quinn. The Jax has an air of reliability and can kind of be a backup team fighter when he needs to. You never want to team fight. You see an AoE stun and you think, oh boy, initiator, but that's not where Jax is. Much better as a cleanup champion. There's still nothing guaranteed about this game, and I've loved the execution of PVB when it's come to these engages during the mid-game.
Still worth highlighting just how ahead Keen is, though. Not just as far as gold goes, even though the items look pretty similar, and his individual gold lead isn't that high. Currently 2 levels ahead, as he has been solo side lane for pretty much most of this game, and that will probably not change unless something extremely dramatic happens, probably around the big purple worm.
Yeah, the extra turret and just the pace of the game has meant that Zeros is staying competitive, which is important. But moments like this will remind you that definitely nothing resembling a trade, just one man wailing on the other, and Zeros just looking to pick up camps, to pick up gold where possible, and potentially try to find that Xayah one more time.
Nice little blue trinket there from Kramer, I believe. He's going to spot Zeros rotating back down. It was at the Raptor camp as Keen respectfully walks away as PVB move into the fog of war. Just get some turret shots and is able to walk away pretty safely. Again, Afrika very controlled. Should be able to play this game at their pace. We'll see if PVB can crack that.
And we should talk a bit about kind of the game mechanics we discussed, 1-3-1 and 4-1, which aren't always the easiest to discern between. You might say, but Swain's in the top lane, it's a 1-3-1. The difference here is you look at Swain's item build and it says team fight, mage, right? You see the Zonias, the Rod of Ages, the Mercs, very much wants to be a team fighter. He can push lanes, but when you're playing 4-1, when you have a Jax, you want to have extensive information on one side of the map for the Jax to make informed decisions about. Because the game no longer has green smite, has less wards in general, you don't have enough vision to safely split push in 2 sides and actually get, unless you have threat in both sides. The Jax represents threat, the Swain not so much, and thus you'll see Swain push waves in the top, but very rarely go past the river because there's not going to be enough information to pull that off. And speaking of the Swain...
Yeah, there's Kuro again, going to start a trade onto Pallet Hook, not going to connect as Pallet body slammed out to safety. Afrika Freaks, though, do still need to get some work done here in the mid lane, as Meliodas is going to get pulled back, but he'll be safe this next time around. There is a Mountain Drake up as well. Spirit has already started that, so Afrika Freaks, again, rotate their Jacks back to the top side, make their strong side the right-hand side here, and they will be able to pick up the objective.
And this is the one time Jacks come to group. No coincidence when the Mountain Drake has been hit. Keen doesn't want to come and help with the Mountain Drake, but just wants to invite Zeros to show himself, show some top, so they know it's going to be an outnumber, it's going to be a free Mountain Drake, and when it's going to be Titanic Hydra and this double Mountain Drake, Jack's going to be pretty fast at pushing waves, which is not something innately that his kit provides.
Yep, Kuro actually going to play tag here, as Afrika Freaks will swap sides on the map, because of course Baron is now the objective to play for, so Keen wants to make sure he's pressuring the long lane there in bot side, and already did some work on the turret. We'll see if he can get enough free time to maybe knock it down. Again, PVB have responded pretty well, I would say, to these overall map movements, but at some point, Jax is just going to start ignoring the responses you send and just hit your turrets until they die. So it's certainly not at a point just yet where PVB need to make something happen. They do have a little bit of insurance, especially with the mid turret still being up, but give it 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see where the game is at. Because if it's still sitting at this even point, I think Afrika Freaks will be pretty happy.
And the key is access to the Xayah, because we already know about the Zhonyas and how long it takes to kill the Swain. Problem here is they really have to find a way to get the ult and prevent Kramer from leaving the area. Yes, he will lift off, but not being able to leave the area from something like the Flash or the Dark Passage means eventually follow-up damage will kill the Xayah. He's really the only one they can make accountable, can PVB, as the Jackson do split push, and now walks up as here we go.
Yeah, Spirit back down to the bot side. This is real unfair. Good flash, but good follow there from Keen. Just needs one more auto. Boss plant's there. And Kramer already killed Pal in the mid lane, so Afrika Freaks on two sides will get their top laner out, but it costs them their support.
Yeah, we missed out on the mid lane fight, but in the bot lane, they're going to make short work of this turret now. Noah's already used his ultimate. They're trying to spread PVB as thin as possible.
And that's one of the great things about, again, Nocturne here for Spirit with something like Keen on this carry side lane champ. So easy for him to join and get stuff happen. That kill in the mid lane also gives them pressure on mid. They get this turret, all of a sudden the Afrika Freaks have so much more control, but they do want to try and defend here. Meliodas clears the wave, Null back in to threaten, so Afrika Freaks will have to wait another day.
This game is not going to be won in the grouped mid lane push. It's going to be won in the split push by the Jax, getting such a massive item advantage that in the end it won't matter what's happening among the 3 or the 4 that are parked elsewhere. Nocturne's combo ult is reminding me of, say, the Shen meta we had in the support earlier in the season of Kai'Sa, who can combo with someone like a Jackson, fly in and guarantee kills. This is what we missed. Wait and see this one is, that's just a sniper hook, and we've seen this a couple of times. The aftershock is procced too late, and Pallet goes down.
Yep, Kramer avoids the knockback and picks himself up a pretty straightforward kill. So Afrika Freaks take back the gold lead. Still, again, only 1,000, not a big lead as far as the actual gold itself goes, but again, you think about how much pressure Afrika Freaks are building and how much stronger this Jax is getting now that the Titanic is finished. You worry about something like a Baron, you worry that this mid outer turret looks pretty unhealthy after the last exchange in mid, and it is starting to stack a little bit against the Fengfu Buffalo.
You do feel like some people, for example, the Xin, have kind of been marooned between fights that they haven't been able to get to. 0, 1, and 2 very slowly building towards Hysteric's Gauge to be able to hard engage into a fight for a while. Definitely not been ideal times for Meliodas. Nocturne's so much more forgiving. He's got the Duskblade now in order to see vision. We know he's always going to be able to combo with the Jax whenever he goes aggressive. So finding something out of the Xin, and we should mention the Gragas as well. I feel like Ming at Asia Games made the Gragas support look so easy and reliable because of his just sheer skill on the pick. You forget how squishy he is, and the fact that in scenarios like that just ends up being another notch in the belt for the Xayah.
At the end of the day, underfarm support is still pretty squishy regardless of the champion you're playing. So unfortunately for Pallet, he has been the target of a number of Afrika Freaks plays too, so going to look for him again here as Kramer does get the wave pushed in. Still needs a few more feathers into the turret, but Afrika Freaks, again, this is not a team that ever feels a need to rush,
and I feel like. But they haven't had any ability, PVB, to put down the sort of vision to punish Afrika, so you're just accepting the wins. You're accepting 6 out of every minion wave, 7 going the way of the Jax, and the gold lead just ballooning. Nice start from the Camille, but no longer. Husin and Keen walking up. They are spotted, though, trying to pincer Fengfu Buffalo from every direction as Keen just wants to zone them from the turret.
Some zoning Beyblade action there for Jax, and that's the mid outer turret now to Afrika Freaks. Again, mounting up in a minute 20. That will help out either the quest for Baron or Keen's continued quest to kill structures inside lanes.
3 Mountain Drakes always makes for some interesting duo possibilities on the Baron. They probably require Jax, who's going to be very conspicuous by his absence, given that he's been split pushing onto inhibitor turrets at 25 minutes. But the Baron speed will definitely be light speed on the side of Afrika. They're looking for some shops now. They're looking to reset, and I imagine Baron control will be their next objective.
And we'll also see if maybe a fight can be formulated here for Fongvu Buffalo. If it is indeed as valuable as a Freaker Fix probably think that third mountain is, then perhaps PVB can find that as their ground to force a fight. Because again, it really just has been, again, is a little too slow for them given the tools they drafted for themselves. Xerath is here in mid lane, they're grouping, they've gotten all ready to try and charge in with the ulti. They're able to get these waves pushed, at least in one of the side lanes, in the right direction for them. But Freaker Fix are, again, giving them the runaround, which is kind of the thing that this team has done so well all year long.
We know what Fongvu Buffalo's comp can do, but when do you do it when you have so little information, especially advanced of the river, of where Freaker Freaks members are? They're going to second guess themselves at every moment. That allows Afrika to always be in the right position to disengage when they need to. And even though we know the potential of Camille, Galio, and Xin, they've been hamstrung by just how shallow their vision is trying to make a safe play. I think you have to roll the dice at some point, Pastry Time, because this game state doesn't look like it's going to get any better for Fongvu Buffalo.
And that's kind of what the story has felt like for the last 5 to 10 minutes. The Mountain Drake is up, so perhaps that's where they decide to make their stand. Or perhaps they just rush left side of the map and threaten a Baron and maybe force a fight.
Always wonder what the objectives you're willing to give up are at any moment. The Baron never one to allow. The third Mountain Drake doesn't feel good. The Elder will be spawning basically at the minimum time, around 35 minutes and 2 seconds. That means that's where PVB will have to commit to something, otherwise they'll lose everything.
They see Jax here. This is not a bad spot to maybe try and go, but not going to go for it just yet here. I mean, Keen's going to get so much free time here.
Kramer's given the inner turret a pretty big hug, Pastry Time, and he's the only one they want to engage on. That's the struggle, as Keen's going to get at least a chunk onto this inhibitor turret.
And Jax hits the turret. Keen gets out and actually has 2 down here, but I don't think Palad's enough to defend.
No. That is not the right 2 to try to go in on the champ. The champ is going to find his damage. He's not going to greed for the turret. He's going to back away. Feels like he's playing Quinn. I see Quinn when I see Jack. It's kind of a weird thing given their model sizes, but seen this before from a Freaker Freaks. Actually just slowly killing the wave here, working out whether he wants to allow any minions to aggro his wave or not. He finds Zeros.
Yep.
He's happy to fight
hit
again.
him, gonna stun him. Zeros gonna take way too much damage, and Keen's just gonna back off. Zeros has to kill all these minions because his turret's a little too low to do anything other than try and protect it. And again, Big Core is getting waves pushed into his way now and has to clear them out in mid.
It's sort of methodical League of Legends that definitely isn't as easy on the eye as some of the action-packed games we had yesterday. But I guess the advantage on the side of Afrika is once they were able to take advantage of their early game, they get into a place where they play proactive, they limit the options for PvP, and they have multiple win conditions. That's kind of the scary thing here on the side of PvP. They've been stifled for so long in this game. But any single mistake, and certainly Freaker Freaks have made their share of mistakes in the summer season, they do have that reliable ability to punish, so we definitely don't know this game is over until we see that Nexus explode.
Certainly not, but I think for Freaker Freaks, it might not be flashy, but this is the kind of League of Legends that got them to this point. And for a squad that was potentially looking like, never mind, we'll talk about that in a second, because that's another hook on a pallet. Gonna charge it over the other side and try and pick somebody off. Cremo is going to get low. They actually dove on Azaris and killed him pretty quickly as Kuro trying to zone his way out of there. Into stasis, now going to take the Lantern out of there. Tucson with a good hook gets 1 kill, and Zeros is collapsed on instantly for the second.
Really good shot calling there as Nocturne used the ult not to dive further, but to actually help out Kramer. Was caught on the bottom side. And not started yet. Here comes Keen. 1v2, no problem.
It's going to zone them off this side of the map here. Should be a pretty simple Baron take. In fact, it's Kramer and Tucson, the dual lane. Going to take that out as the TP over here is going to ensure that this goes down. That's Kuro coming back in from the mid lane. Keen's even around just to make sure no funny business happens in the Baron pit. But Afrika, they win a quick fight and they take a very quick Baron.
And I have to watch the replay to fully illustrate what happened there, but the chunks were real and this was no inroads for PVB to look for the combo ults. Another fight where Galio unable to ult. Well, watch the replay. Pallet has face checked too frequently for how squishy this Gragas is, but on the bottom side, you don't see Jax sleeping in for kills on the back end. You look to see him helping out Kramer, who was being ganked on the bottom side of the fight, able to regroup from there, and then the moment that Jax was able to keep the remaining members of PVB away, the Baron was inevitable for the side of Afrika Freaks.
And like I said, it's not flashy, but if it gets them out of groups, that's all Afrika Freaks needs to be concerned about at this point, given how poorly their first half of the round robin started here. Certainly do not want to be joining Gen G as going home early from the tournament.
Even though this will be the second group to end, you already know RNG's the first seed, so you would love to dodge them as much as possible. So first seed in the group is important, and you need to win all 3 games in order to pull that off. Could be a table-topping clash later in the day that decides it, maybe even a tiebreaker depending on how games go. But Afrika Freaks now in a comfortable position, 5,000 gold ahead, and with the Jax now being raid boss status.
Yeah, if you thought he was good with Triple Mountain Drake, now he's got a Baron buff to make things even easier. 2 quick hits to the turret, and that takes it down. Big Koro and 2 more are going to try and come through. That's actually a 4-man. King going to try and get out of there. He's just buying what time he can. He's going to get a 2-man stun. He's buying enough time for his teammates. Tootson chucks in the lantern. He pops the stopwatch. I think he's going to make it out safely. Rides it out, but gets taunted as Kramer takes out Zeros, who dove in valiantly to try and finish off the game. But Big Koro is dead to Kuro. Kuro's going to get the next claw and grab himself a double kill. And it's going to be clean up city for Afrika Freaks King. He took 1 death, but that's enough to grant Afrika Freaks the game.
It's the King that we respect so much. The champ is dead. Long live the champ. Able to take down the enemy team. The cleanup crew is here, and this will be the victory for Afrika Freaks.
Tootson going to force another flash as Afrika Freaks take down yet another Nexus. That moves itself to 3-2, still in control of their own destiny, Papa.
And this is why in the LCK, red side Afrika, the moment you saw that top lane pick held, you wondered which poison was being picked to enact maximum damage onto you. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't swift, but it was one-sided by the Afrika Freaks. Once we saw that kill in the top lane and the kill in the 2v2, I'm sure a lot of people around the world, G2 fans, Bongfu Buffalo fans, felt the sinking feeling, and in the end, comfortable victory for Afrika.
And unfortunately for the Bongfu Buffalo, it is just Dream Crusher they will have to play in their remaining game, but still a strong showing versus a frustrating opponent to play against who have seemingly returned a bit more to the form we expected from them when they entered into the tournament. Still have the match to play later against G2, which will be very interesting to determine the fate of this group. But for now, Afrika, it seems like whatever they've changed in the little time they had to prepare has done wonders, because 2